Hello, and welcome back to Cabincast Rambles. I'm Oliver, and I'm joined by Tan.
Hello.
We are back with more Steven Universe.
Indeed we are. Last time we did Kiki's Pizza Delivery Service and Monster Reunion.
We
And
did.
this time we are doing Alone at Sea and maybe Greg the Babysitter, who knows?
Who knows? It's yeah. We'll see, because Alone at Sea has quite a bit for us to discuss.
It does. But I think we've gotten a bit more sort of concise.
We
why-
have largely, yes, we have indeed.
We sort of went from not saying much about the episodes to saying a lot, but we sort of say the same amount but in a shorter period of time.
Something
now.
like that, yeah, unless it's like a very large episode.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that we did still do 2 episodes on Mr. Greg, so.
We did.
But anyway, yeah, Alone at Sea. So like we had a discussion at the end of last time, these next almost all have big old lore connotations and things.
Yeah, it's like how at the end of season we got a load of very plot relevant episodes right at the end.
Indeed.
We're getting that again.
We are getting that again. This time, Lapis.
Indeed. It's been a while since we last saw Lapis.
Yeah. Lapis having
our mates.
one of the longest character arcs in the show.
Yeah, very. It's throughout the entire show, but it's like not on all the time.
Much. Yes,
like,
it is a background-ish one. But yeah, we start at the well, not the beach, but the docks with Steven.
Yes.
And Lapis, who's got her eyes covered by her wings, but her wings are water, so like, is it really helping? Also, has the Beach City water tower always been quite that large, or?
I couldn't say.
Because it's pretty huge.
I'm not watching it live at the moment.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sort of...
But it's big. And it turns out there's a boat.
There is. They've bought a boat.
They bought a boat.
Well, Greg has rented a boat.
Greg's rented a boat, which is, like, fair enough, because I'm sure he doesn't need a boat the whole time. But he could have just bought a boat.
Could have bought a boat. But as it turns out, it would have been the same the same price.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, she thought she was about to guess the surprise, and then when she sees the surprise, she seems less sure, which is interesting.
She seems super enthused about the idea. Boats are in water.
Boats are in water. Also, Steven's shorts are like lighter blue than normal.
Oh.
Which is just another random thing I've
Boat
noticed.
Shorts.
Boat shorts, and yeah, Greg's rocking the whole properly clothed look, I suppose, instead of just like a vest. But he's got like a turtleneck on and a jacket and a captain's hat. It's very cool.
Very cool.
He's so suntanned, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it turns out that Lapis hadn't actually met before, so they introduced to each other. Lapis doesn't know what a handshake is, though.
Yeah, she doesn't. She also kind of hurt him.
Yeah, that's accident. Like the first bit the first bit of sort of foreshadowing to what this episode's all about.
Yeah.
In that the first thing that Greg says to Lapis is that, "Oh yeah, you broke my leg."
Yep.
Um,
And then I wrote a song about you. He doesn't say that.
I don't know if Lapis ever heard that one,
Mm-hmm. Probably not.
but that is a little bit of foreshadowing.
It is.
Lapis is, at the moment, very much unsure as to whether she wants to do this,
Mm-hmm.
which is understandable,
Mm-hmm.
having spent months at the bottom of the ocean, trying to resist Jasper's sort of influence in Malachite,
Mm-hmm.
which, as we know, used up a lot of strength to do.
Yes.
It's not going to be the most. How do I put it? It's not going to be the most sort of joyous experience going back to being surrounded by water.
Yeah, so it's another one of those tricky situations where, like, you can have something that you absolutely love doing,
Yes,
and then someone, or like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person, it could just be something that
it could just be an
happened,
event.
an
Yeah,
event that occurred, yeah, or it could be a person comes along and,
or a series of events.
or a series of events, absolutely, comes along and just ruins this thing for you.
Yes,
But it's still clear that you love this thing, but now it's harder to. It kind of also reflects back on what we were talking about last time when we were talking about it's a similar but different thing of how we were talking about how artists, you do art for fun, then you start to do art for work, then you can't do art for fun. Um,
yeah, yeah,
it's a
exactly.
similar principle here where, like, I don't know, say you love bowling, and then this other bowling person starts hanging out, and they just keep making jokes at your expense or something, or I don't know, there was a fire, or
Yeah,
something, and then it's just like, well, I want to do this, but there's just all this negative stuff
you start to associate.
associated with it, and suddenly it's like, well, this thing used to be fun, and now it just reminds me of all of these, you know,
Yeah,
bad
it's
things.
like you might like a subject, but then a bad teacher might ruin it for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a real danger right there.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I imagine, like, I couldn't say for certain again, because luckily it's not yet happened to me. But I imagine it's a similar thing with, if you had a close friend or a relative or something who you did a certain activity with, and then you lost them, then it would be hard to you know do that thing again without them being there. But
yes,
then, like, tangentially,
and
it
that's
can be a
very related.
thing. Yeah, it can be a thing that you can do, to remember, the times that you did have. Um,
Yeah.
and it can be, you can flip it, but again, that's an innately positive experience with a negative thing, which can be turned back into a positive. Obviously,
Hmm.
if, there's some traumatic event that happens, you can't use the trauma as a, well, that was a fun old time in the same sense. It doesn't quite work, but you can get stuff out of it, which is kind of where we're going to wind up
Yeah,
here.
you absolutely hit the nail on the head there. Um, because it's basically that Lapis. Obviously, there is part of it, the trauma of not wanting to be out surrounded by water. But on the other hand, it's the fact that she doesn't. She kind of misses her
Hmm.
relationship with Jasper, even if it
Yeah,
was toxic and awful.
indeed.
And that
Um,
is what has sort of made this whole experience, this whole category of experiences, be poisoned.
yeah. And that's us without us even getting into the whole, yeah, toxic relationship side of things, which we will get to
We will.
when Jasper rocks up.
Oh yeah.
But we're not quite there yet. Lapis is still uh like, I'm not sure about this, and to be fair, it doesn't think that she deserves this.
That's a big one.
Which
Yeah.
is another another. It's gonna be one of these episodes. Um, It's another big thing about, kind of, self-deprecation's not quite the right,
Self-worth.
but self-worth, yeah, like Lapis doesn't feel like, she deserves them being like nice to her and stuff, and it's like you literally saved everyone when you, fused like at massive risks to yourself, that are clearly still present. Like, obviously it's not necessarily an easy thing, so you can't necessarily, it's just like it's some kind of like reward or something, but that's definitely what Stephen,
Yeah.
is trying to have like a kind of a positive experience for her. And they called the boat the Little Lappy, or temporarily called it that. It's actually called the SS Misery, which is a less great name. Um,
Yeah, I wouldn't personally call a boat that.
no, probably not. There'd have to be a very good reason as to why it
Yeah.
would be called that.
And it's kind of speaking about that sort of self-worth, is that it might seem from the outside that it's illogical,
Hmm.
but when you're feeling such things, it is coming from a completely sort of, from your perspective, rational point of view, even
Yeah,
if it is totally like, it's completely like a wild sense of logic.
yeah.
To the person themselves, it feels like they are rationally.
That's, I
Um,
mean, like, yeah, that's the thing about logic and rationale is that whilst there is, I would say, in most cases, an agreed, this is the rational thing in this situation, this is the logical thing in this situation, to each person, obviously, it is
yeah,
absolutely different. And if you, are suffering from like, trauma or depression or just, anxiety or whatever it is, yeah, things aren't always gonna, be the same. Like, and it can be like obviously both confusing for the people suffering from that and the people surrounding them. Like I'll have friends who have done something which is, for the clear betterment of themselves and, definitely the thing that should hopefully help them and help their mental health in the long run, and then get messages from them be like, did I do the right thing? Was I actually really dumb and I should have done that? And you're like, no. What? How could you? That doesn't make sense. Why would you think that? But you're not coming at something from the, same perspective as someone else.
yeah,
And that's
um,
often a tricky thing, but a thing you just always got to try and keep in mind.
yeah, exactly. Most um, most mentally ill people think that they are being rational
Hmm.
with their um, beliefs and their belief
Yeah,
structures.
and that's why it can be so dangerous.
False. It's
Uh,
not like entirely false.
no,
It's just that they might have incorrect base assumptions,
yeah, no,
and so the
absolutely.
the line of like to what extent someone with a mental illness is, like BBC News,
Is the
is
news?
free
Yeah.
is a very difficult and grey sort of line.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of what I'm doing in my been studying in my
Hmm.
dissertation.
Yes. Yes. No, it does make these discussions so interesting because I'm never entirely sure what I'm saying, if it actually is in any way kind of, because as I will repeat time and time again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just say words that come out of my mouth. But I feel
I
like
mean,
I
those
feel
words
like
are all
Chan.
good though.
I mean, that's the thing I'm glad about. Is like you're like, yeah, no, you are onto something there. I'm like, cool. That makes me feel slightly better about what I'm saying. Um, in these situations. But yeah, the naming of the boat at the very least seems to win Lapis over for the moment, and they all
Comedy.
fly on to the boat and set sail.
Exactly. Although they break the dock.
They break the dock because they don't.
You got to
don't
untie the boat.
untie the boat because they don't know how sailing works. Really, this is probably really dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I love that the
they,
first thing Greg does after being like, "Well, clearly I'm not cut out to be captain. Let's make an alien or a child captain."
clearly they are better qualified.
Clearly, and he offers it to Lapis, which is,
Which
a,
is, yeah,
a nice gesture.
a nice gesture.
Um,
Doesn't quite pan out the way they expected, though.
it doesn't, because Steven's like, "Yeah, go for it," and Lapis kind of snaps.
Yeah,
Which she has been known to do. Lapis has been known to snap. But here she, you know, covers it. She's like, "I'm sorry, but I, I don't." But yeah, Stephen, comes in and is like, "No, it's okay." Um, seeing some character growth there.
yeah. The Stevens sort of plan here
Hmm.
is that they are only there's like a good vibes only. It's we're only allowed to have fun today.
Hmm.
Which is it's a good sentiment, but perhaps not 100% the way you want to go.
No.
Because sometimes things that aren't fun or things that aren't good vibes are useful and they're
Yeah,
better for bonding.
again, Stephen has, he's trying to solve a problem, but he's kind of missing the problem.
Yeah,
Where he's
he's
like,
trying to solve it all in one day when this is a 1,000-year-old.
this is a big old difficult issue. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like well, Lapis doesn't like the water. Let's go on the water and just have some fun. But
yeah,
it's not that Lapis doesn't like the water. It's things that relate to the water. Like we said, it's the associations, and if what happened didn't happen, they might have had a perfectly fun day on the water, and they might have really enjoyed it, including Lapis, but it wouldn't have solved anything. Um, but anyway, Greg keeps the hat. No one's captain,
yeah.
and
Um,
they set sail.
yeah, Lapis doesn't want to put the hat on her
No,
body. I guess that gems like not a lot of gems still do not want to wear clothes.
gems don't like clothes. They prefer to be naked.
Naked.
That's a complicated discussion in and of itself, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that all works.
Well, because they do clearly like to be, again, like naked, because as we find out with baby Stephen, he is kind of suffocated when his gem is covered. Um, and they do
And he
really
seems
like
to have gotten used to that.
he seems to have gone more used to that, absolutely, but then he's only half gem as well, I suppose. Um,
Yeah,
but for the other gems, you can always see their gem, which, obviously you could argue is just a design choice, but uh, yeah, does seem that way. Um,
do you think a
yeah,
gem with a gem on their armpit would go without a shirt?
I think that is likely. Yeah. It'd also be
The
really
real
unfortunate.
question.
These are the real questions. Yeah. So yeah, they have some juice. Some. I don't feel like I
Some
should call it
champagne
orange
juice.
juice because in that kind of carton, it it looks like that orange soda stuff they have in America, which is definitely more chemicals than oranges. Um,
Maybe.
and yeah, either way,
They're doing a lot of things.
they're doing a lot of things. Clearly Lapis can just control liquid beyond water because she controls the orange stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
pretty cool. And Greg seems to be having a fun old time posing on the boat. Um, This hair
There's
flowing in the
water
wind.
inside.
Yeah, this is water and juice if it is, in fact, juice. Try some
Lapis
sunbathing.
slowly starts to become a bit more comfortable with it all.
Yeah, exactly. Steven keeps being like, "Oh, we do this thing, this thing. Do you want to hoot the horn? It's really, really loud because it's for a ship."
Yeah, she likes that one though.
She likes the horn. Greg's ears are hurting more. She's also there.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah,
Bit of a mood there.
yeah. Did you finally get enough of that horn? What?
So they try a bit of
Right.
fishing.
Try some fishing.
The first thing that because Lapis wants to help, she wants to be helpful.
Yeah.
So the first thing she tries is lifting a giant globule of water up,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing if you can get any fish from there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very cool.
It is very
looks
cool.
neat.
It looks
But
really
Greg
awesome.
is a little unsure about this.
Yeah.
Um, perhaps understandable. So it's like it's a little bit of a sad part, It's like Lapis just trying to help.
Lepers is trying to help, and I think it's both a mixture of Greg wanting it to do it his way, and also again, she did break his leg. So the actual seeing this kind of water manipulation might for him still be kind of uncomfortable.
Hmm.
But they
I
move
don't
on
think
pretty.
Greg is bad in this episode.
No,
He's not
no,
a bad person,
absolutely
far
not.
from it. But I
Yeah.
think he makes a few mistakes because it feels like the only interactions between Greg and Lapis are ones where he sort of either dismisses or puts down Lapis, and it can sometimes bring down the mood.
Yeah.
But safer to stick with the old-fashioned way of fishing, probably.
Exactly. And Lapis is like, okay, well, can you show me the old-fashioned way? And Greg does, and she finds something.
She does. A little note before that,
Yeah, sorry, yep, go for it.
because when Lapis puts the water down, Stephen goes, "Wow, that was amazing!" And then Lapis puts her hand on his head,
Yes.
and then he calms down, which is I'm not quite sure how to interpret that.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was just clearly Greg doesn't, think that sounds amazing, so it's okay, just let's try it his way, or if it's I don't want to hear that it's amazing because again, I still don't feel like I deserve this. I know what you mean. It's a tricky one. Yeah.
It's a bit difficult,
Mhm.
but like 15 hours later, they do eventually
Yes.
get a little bite,
Or not.
or not. They get what seems like a bite.
It does. But as it rises to the surface, Lapis seems to realize something, and then the pole breaks.
Yeah, there's something very large and ominous and
Indeed,
shadowy inside the sea.
there is. And it's not water.
And it's not water.
Yeah. And yeah, Greg's like, well, guess I bought this pole, but you did a good job. And Lapis seems
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
distracted.
Greg's sort of done for the day.
Yeah.
But Lapis just sort of disappears suddenly. And that's sort of something you
Yeah.
got to get used to.
Yep. Lapis does this.
yeah, she's sort of fiercely independent. She doesn't want to be constrained by other people, so she'll just like spontaneously head out at any point, amusingly. But then, as Stephen tries to go back to Lapis and encourage her to do more things that are fun, suddenly the boat starts shaking.
It does.
Something appears to be hitting the boat, perhaps.
It does.
And they all crash about like a Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then the engine blows and the rudder's gone.
It does. The rudder's gone.
It's all pretty bad.
Yeah.
And the sky turns grey. Basically, bad things.
Lots of bad things. It's all not great. And Greg's trying his best to figure it out, but he can't really. And then we go to Lapis.
Yeah,
not
this
got
is where
eyes
the sort
currently.
of big scenes start.
Mm-hmm.
And
Stephen's like, we're gonna
Stephen goes to
be
deliver
here
the
a
news.
while. Yeah.
Yes.
Be a while, and starts apologizing because he did just want her to have fun, and it's all kind of gone wrong.
Yeah, it has. Interesting again how Stephen's first instinct is to blame himself, which he's done multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of a bit that maybe in future he will eventually learn from, but this is a thing that is constant throughout Stephen's character arc.
Yes.
Is that very often he will blame himself.
Solves other people's problems, blames everything on himself. We'll do that the whole show.
Yep.
And yeah, most of future.
But Lapis disagrees.
Lapis disagrees.
Lapis is the same and thinks it's her fault.
Yep.
And it turns out that she is trying. She really wants to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really difficult to let go of those thoughts of that unhappy fusion.
Mm-hmm.
That she was not only like, not just that she was in the fusion, but that she was trying to keep that together.
Yeah.
Even if it was meant to not be.
Yeah.
As the sort of because she wanted to protect everyone else, she kept Jasper in chains so that she could never leave the fusion.
Yeah, exactly.
And trying so hard to keep someone with you, even if you hate them, appears to have made Lapis kind of miss that feeling.
Mm-hmm. There's still a connection.
There's still a connection there. And Lapis has very, very low self-worth at the moment.
Yeah.
She thinks she's terrible for doing all these things.
Yep. It's not good.
Yeah, but before Stephen can respond, bum bum bum.
Bum bum
We
bum,
see
indeed.
Jasper. Jasper has returned. It has been a long time since we've seen Jasper.
Yeah.
Since Super Watermelon Island, I believe.
Exactly.
When
Which is
the gems just sort of let her fall into the ocean.
Yeah, and really it's been since the very start of season 2 / end of season 1. Because we see her very briefly in Super Watermelon Island.
Yeah. And we saw her say one word in chelated.
Yes, correct.
Because she goes, you,
Yeah.
you, you, and then screams.
Mhm.
That's all.
Mhm. So yeah, this is the like first proper interaction we've had with her in a while.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, it turns out Jasper has been following them and their boat and has been wrecking the boat, basically, to get up. Jasper has been not trying to get at Stephen, trying to get back to Lapis.
Yeah.
Stephen tries to protect her, but then Jasper says a few things.
Mm-hmm.
She says that while she may be strong and
Mm-hmm.
brutish, Lasper? Lapis. Lasper. Nice. Lapis is truly the one who is a monster.
Yeah.
And I quote.
Which
And
tracks when you think about it?
when you think about it, yeah, someone who has kept you in chains, in an unstable fusion,
Mm-hmm.
out of that kind of spite.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might feel like they are kind of bad.
Yeah, and I mean the power as well. Like obviously, Jasper is, as we find out later, so spoilers, I guess, like the best of the Beta Kindergarten by
Yeah,
far. Like Lapis is a terraformer. Like she
Lapis
makes
is a
planets.
terraformer.
Like obviously that's not power in the same sense as a soldier, but that is power. Um, it's a lot of
Yeah,
power for one gem to have. Um,
while she might not have had that sort of combat, she's been
mhm.
observing a war for a few
Yeah,
thousand years.
yeah,
But there is also the part that I'm pretty sure she's stronger than most other Lapises.
yeah. She seems like a very strong Lapis, and the
Yeah,
Lapises are all pretty powerful gems anyway. Um,
exactly.
so yeah, so the three gems on this boat actually are pretty 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 heavyweight gems, you could say, probably.
Exactly.
Um,
Stephen
and
tries
yeah,
to intervene.
Stephen is trying to intervene, but
Jasper does not want to hear it. This is purely between Lapis
it's
and
between
Jasper.
them.
Stephen
Yeah,
does not have anything to do with it, according to Jasper.
no, and she bats Stephen out the way,
Yep.
and it's like classic Jasper, and then Jasper like grabs Lapis, which is actually also kind of classic Jasper, but then
Mm.
she like falls on her knees and she's like, "Let's be Malachite again," because she kind of wants the same thing.
They both miss each other here.
Yeah.
It's strange to see Jasper in such a sort of
Mm-hmm.
submissive position, in the sort of um,
Yeah.
begging for it,
And not just
because
that,
she recognizes that sort of strength
for fusion as well.
and fusion. She didn't like fusion back in Jailbreak.
Yeah, she was like, fusion's just things that weak gems use to gain more power, and like clearly that's not the case here because obviously they're more powerful as Malachite, but they're still very powerful by themselves. So this is purely for the fusion side of it. Um,
She wants to be together with them because they were strong, they were big,
mhm,
they felt powerful that way.
yeah,
But Lapis doesn't see that, only
mhm,
sees that she was toxic to Jasper.
yeah,
And here's the sort of the interesting part:
Yeah.
is that Jasper's like, I've changed,
Mm-hmm. Because
which is often
you
a
were
sort of
bad to
abuser
me.
tactic.
Yeah. And yeah, the grounds do get a bit muddy here because like they were both abusers.
They were
Um,
terrible to each other.
and again, that can happen in relationships as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah, Lapis is saying like you shouldn't want this. Like I was really bad to you. Um, and I hated you. And she's like, yeah, but it's fine. I understand it now, and I'm the only one who can handle your kind of fusion. Which is both a kind of a relation to both the I'm the only one who understands
Yeah.
you, but also uh, I had another thought and then it went. Classic.
That's another one of those sort of like where the abuser tries to isolate someone from other people, in which I'm the only
Hmm.
one who can handle this.
Yeah, it's the idea of I'm the only one who understands you. I'm the only one who. I mean, in a classic kind of abuse situation, it'd be that I'm the only one who cares about you. You know, you've got no one else. I'm the only person that you have, so you have to be with me. Which isn't quite what Jasper's saying here, but
No,
it goes along the same lines.
it's
Um,
sort of similar.
it's a similar concept, um, but vice versa, also being this person knows me and I'm comfortable with this person. Sure, it might not always be great, but I'd much rather have that safety and security than be by myself.
Yeah,
Which is why people often end up going back into abusive relationships and things like that.
yeah. It's
Again,
unfortunately
speaking
a thing that
from
happens quite a lot.
very little, actual experience, but from what you see and hear and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
And yeah, that's one of those things that is exemplified by this,
Hmm.
even if not to an exact sort of an exact scenario.
Yeah.
It's along those lines. And
Yeah.
when Stephen again tries to, reaffirm that Lapis did not want this,
Hmm.
uh, Jasper gets angry, blames Stephen for it, and tries to kill him.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's not
Can we put
time
that
for
on the
that yet, Jasper.
Stephen trauma?
Yeah.
I think we could put
Or the
this on the Stephen trauma.
or the Jasper trauma, but that's much later. Mm.
But instead, Lapis gives Jasper a water uppercut through the boat, and she goes flying off like Team Rocket.
Pretty cool, but the
Yeah,
boat's gone.
but the boat is now holed and
Yep.
sinking.
Yep. Yeah. It's yeah.
Go on.
What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
No, this is true. Yeah, no. So again, like the uh, another thing that again I am thinking makes sense is the idea of like obviously you do have abusive relationships where someone knows outright that they are toxic and they are abusive and
Yeah,
all this stuff, but there's others where people don't necessarily know that,
true.
um, and it takes someone else to either tell them or when someone does leave it's like, well, this clearly can't be my fault. It must be their friend or their family or this other person. You said something and you turned them against me. And um I'm quoting Anakin from Revenge of the Sith now. But um I mean, again, I mean, that's still the same. It's the same thing there, to be fair. Like the line does still mean the same thing. But the idea of, well, clearly it's not me. Like we had a great relationship, so it must be something that you've said um that's ruined this. And like I mean, obviously Steven has said things, but it's not that. It's Lapis herself who's been thinking, I I I miss this, but I hated it. I shouldn't want to go back to it, but I do want to. Um, and I guess that's kind of another aspect of it is of like um things that we reminisce about. And you think about, that was a great old time. I wish I could go back there, do that thing again. And then you go back and you do it, and it's like, huh, well, no, this is pretty bad actually. And sometimes you do need to revisit something to properly get over it. Um,
Hmm.
which obviously in some situations do not do that. Um, but like there might be situations which are, like not abusive situations, but things where you're just like, oh, I don't know where I'm going. It's like sometimes I can't think of like a perfect example from trying to get. I know that there's things that I know that I'm talking about, but I also can't think of what they are. Um, like
I think
sometimes I think about like, I miss when I used to live in Croydon. Maybe it'd have been like nicer to have not moved here and to stay there. And then I've gone back, a couple of times and been like, I mean, sure, there's some elements of it I miss, but no, actually, it's probably for the best. Um, things along those lines of like sometimes you need one last kind of look at something further down the line to really make you kind of figure out what you're thinking.
perhaps there is an element to that. I think, but it's also that I think there's also an issue of self worth here. Is that um, like you might have thought something was terrible, and like after leaving, have thought it was terrible at the time, and also in post, but
Mm,
you still feel like you don't deserve good things to happen to you.
yes.
I think that kind of I hated it, but I miss it is something that perhaps goes a little deeper than. Apologies, I think it goes a little deeper than Croydon.
No, I mean that's exactly my point. That's not exactly what I was trying to say.
Gotcha.
Uh, um, but that was the kind of the best like example of
Yeah,
like a because I hate it, but I miss it. So let's go back into this traumatic relationship is obviously a terrible idea. Um,
yeah, yeah,
so I was kind of like, well, what's a thing which is in the same vein, obviously lesser. Um, because it's clear, like from what we hear Lapis say, she talks about earlier in the episode how she does miss kind of being Malachite, but it's only when she comes face to face with Jasper and the opportunity to do that again that she actually realizes
yeah,
this isn't actually what I want. I guess it's like when sometimes people talk about things or boast about things that they want to do or that they're gonna do, and then it comes down to it, you actually don't want to do it. Um,
yeah. I guess.
being presented with the idea of a choice and the actual choice,
Mm, mm.
um, yeah, I guess will change how you see things potentially.
Yeah. Someone with a negative self worth might think they deserve something bad to happen to them, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean they'll necessarily choose that a bad thing happens to them.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Because they're bad things.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not always the case, but
Yeah. No, exactly. Like
that
there's
is the case in this
absolutely
one.
a version of this where Lapis is like, you know what? No, I do deserve to be Malachite and just be trapped with Jasper, and they go back into the ocean and,
Yeah,
well, I don't know,
maybe if
fly
Stephen
off
hadn't
into
shown him the
space or
thing,
something. But yeah, if Steven hadn't done that, maybe it
that might have happened.
would have happened. But
Twilight does sometimes seem to people that Lapis doesn't change that much.
Mm-hmm.
She's still going through a lot of growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's difficult to maintain that growth when there's like genuine threats and traumas surrounding you.
Exactly.
And so I get how some people might think Lapis is a bit of a frustrating character, but that is sometimes what healing process is like.
I mean, that's life, right? Like, you might have that one friend who keeps going back to this, you know, same abusive boyfriend or girlfriend again and again and again, and you're like, what are you doing? Do you not see how this is hurting you? And to you, from the outside, you're like, you don't understand it, and it's frustrating to see this person that you care about continuing to hurt themselves. But, you know, to them, it's either like, we said, like, this is safe, this is comfortable, this is what I know, or it's, well, I deserve this, clearly. Um, and,
Mm.
you know, hopefully people can find a way out of that, but that's on a person by person basis, and not the same thing's going to work for each person. And yeah, I mean, like, there's times with Lapis that I get frustrated with her in Barnmates and Peridot particularly. But again, that's other trauma, right there, that she's dealing with. So again, it's like, in context, every decision that Lapis makes is good. Um,
Yeah,
and that's
your
why
feelings are
when
still
she
valid about.
absolutely, but it's like it's why at the end. I mean, what I mean is, like, I don't feel like you're not supposed to think that. I think you are supposed to be frustrated with her, so that when she finally does, decide in the again, spoilers, in the last season, that no, I am a crystal gem. I do want to fight for the Earth. It's that much better. It's like season 2,
Yeah,
Zuko at the end of Avatar last episode Avatar the Last Airbender season 2, where he does betray Iroh, and you're like, damn it, Zuko, what are you doing? You were
yeah,
on the path, and it's such a betrayal, and you feel so annoyed. But that makes it so much better when he confronts his father and says, "I'm going to help the Avatar." Um, sometimes you do need that stuff. Um, you know, and yeah, so yeah, Lapis definitely grows. Um, but it's in small increments in the background, which build into a big thing in the end. Um, yeah.
mm. Yeah.
Also, she eats a barn
It's,
at some point, which is pretty cool.
does
So
eat a barn. It's true.
yeah, because it's like, unlike with Peridot, who uh, with Peridot, we come from someone who is ideologically brainwashed, essentially, coming to Earth and
Yeah,
going, "Oh, hang on, these people and this stuff isn't actually that bad. I think I actually care about this stuff." Whereas with Lapis, it's a lot more complicated because it's, well, these people are bad. These other people are also bad, but these people knew what I was and they kept me trapped here for 10,000 years.
mm.
I don't want to be a part of this war. I don't care about any of this stuff. This kid's pretty nice to me. I guess maybe I'll try and stick around. Oh no, I'll leave. Oh, this isn't what I remember. Oh, now I don't want these people to be hurt either. I'll fuse with this person, then she's stuck like that, and then, okay, well, I guess I'll stick around. But now there's this person here who's one of the reasons that I got caught and trapped and brought back to this place.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, she comes from a much more complicated and traumatic starting point. Peridot just has to be, shown that everything that the kind of gem ideology isn't uh that. Whereas in some respects, Lapis has more context for the crystal gems than the current crystal gems even do themselves. Um,
yeah. Lapis sort
in
of
a way.
connected to Stephen and then did a lot of things to try and protect Stephen.
Yes. And it's like Stephen, no, Lapis's connection is to Stephen. Um,
Yes.
Not any of the crystal gems for most of the show. And
Yeah.
eventually you do get her to kind of get along with Peridot. And then even then it's like, it's Peridot, it's Stephen, Connie, she ends up getting on pretty well with. We don't get too much of that relationship, which is a shame because the like Steven, the Connie Peridot Lapis episode is great. But she doesn't interact massively with like Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, who incidentally we do not see at all in this episode. And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that
She
is.
she she is a more complicated, and it's kind of it's it's kind of like the inverse sort of. Well, it's like Bismuth is kind of a combination of uh Peridot and Lapis in that sense, I think, in a way.
Yeah.
In how her perspective and her trauma is, she is a crystal gem already, yes. And she has her ideology, and it doesn't need completely kind of dismantling and changing like Paradox does. It only needs a little bit of tweaking, but because she has the trauma of, Rose literally poofing her and bubbling her, it's harder to make that little change. But obviously, again, we get there in the end,
We do.
thanks to
We do.
Steven. But yeah, we'll talk more about Bismuth soon because we're not far away from that there. But
We're
we kind of
not.
called
You're
it
right.
by actually we're a few episodes away. um, especially if we did what we did this week, which was talk a lot again. As we said we wouldn't, but yeah. Greg the Babysitter again, there is quite a bit to say, so I think we'll leave this with just Alone at Sea. To
Yeah,
be on
that
the
makes
safe side.
sense.
And yeah, any closing thoughts from you, Tan?
This isn't always an easy episode to watch,
Yeah?
but it is a good one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us might relate to Lapis in this point, or not. Maybe it's not all of it. Maybe
I
it's just me. Who knows?
with the kind of people who Steven Universe resonates with, um it seems like to say with the kind of people that I think Steven Universe resonates with, I imagine a lot of people do. Sounds kind of like a bit of a stereotype. But I feel more it's like the kind of the themes and stuff that resonate with a lot of people in Steven Universe is because it resonates with those people. Because there are things that people have to deal with, and lost my point here, but I what am I trying to say? I think if people watch Steven Universe and they kind of come to understand their characters, and you can see yourself in those characters, then there's definitely going to be at least a certain proportion of those people who are going to in this episode understand the issues with self what's the word again? I've forgotten it.
Self-worth.
Self-worth, that's what it was. Self-worth. And because I imagine that's that where I'm kind of gonna go off on a tangent here, which seems complicated, but you've got a lot of questions to do with identity and stuff in Steven Universe, and I imagine self-worth can be tied to that as well. But I could be entirely wrong on that, so I don't want to go too much off into a random direction where it's like, well, this turns out to be not really the case. But if you don't really know who you are, then I don't imagine you can be incredibly confident with who you are. Which I
Sure.
don't imagine necessarily helps with your self-worth, if that makes sense. Um,
That sort of confidence seems more like self-esteem.
True, which is kind of different. Absolutely right. So my point was that I kind of got away from was no, I imagine there are lots of people who would agree with you on that, and like even though I can't personally relate, I can definitely see how um this episode can be difficult to watch. Uh, and there are things that there's things that even if they don't directly speak to me, they do indirectly speak to me because of like context I have from other people that I know. And then I can kind of see like them almost mirrored in some of the characters uh
Yeah.
in this place.
Sometimes people with bad self-worth, negative self-worth,
Hmm.
feel like they sort of want to be harmed in some ways, even if they know that it's bad for them. So
Yeah,
it can be quite a sort of a difficult watch for such people.
it yeah, it's the principle that I deserve this. And again, coming down to that, you know, rationality being from your own perspective. Um, like obviously you probably don't deserve this, but if that's how you've got it in your head, then that can be really tricky.
Yes.
Um, and yeah.
Um, so how about that checklist that we have?
How about that checklist we have? Well, there was no Train Chan in this.
There was only Boat Chan,
There was only Boat Chan,
and Boat
which we
Chan died.
Boat Chan made one appearance and is now at the bottom of the ocean. Uh, Lars was not here to learn any lessons, and Greg Trauma. He didn't see Stephen almost get killed by Jasper, did he?
um,
I don't think so.
I don't know. He only sort of had a bad time on a boat. That's all.
I think he's probably right. I think if it was less about, I think they really could have, if they'd wanted to go in that direction, made the episode about this could easily have been an episode about Greg getting over his trauma from what Lapis did to him. Which obviously it's not,
Hmm.
because Greg's kind of easygoing and that
Yeah,
he seems a little bit uncomfortable with Lapis in ways, but he's not really. Um, which I guess is another thing. Like Greg's just pretty chill and easygoing and stuff. So um, yeah. So I was like, you could make an argument maybe that seeing when all like the ocean bit floats into the air, that could have been traumatic. But I think with the way he handles it, I think he's probably fine.
yeah. You don't
Uh,
often see sort of trauma unless it's with veterans. You don't see trauma coping with adults in media.
No, not much. Yeah,
Maybe it's an unexplored.
I feel like it's something which we get more of now, but
Maybe I don't really keep up that well.
yeah, I mean like he's kind of. I was gonna say like in Kenobi at the moment, which with episode 5 out today, but not seen it yet. But obviously you could argue is a veteran. He literally is a veteran.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but a lot of what the show does have to deal with is his failure of failing Anakin, and him turning to the dark side, and the show deals with that quite heavily, and him not wanting to do this task. I'm going to try and get this spoiler free. Task that he should do because it involves him, trying to be Obi-Wan again instead of Ben Kenobi, and he doesn't feel like he can do that, um, because he failed, and like he's just this defeated old man in the desert, and he's not really got his connection to the Force. And the kind of as the show's progressed and things have happened, he's kind of slowly managed to get back into his old self and try and help himself move past that. Which has been really interesting.
Hmm.
But there's definitely, it's definitely, mental illness and things like that. It's we're getting there, um, in terms of awareness and understanding, but there's still a long way to go. And so it's like, is it there in shows? More,
More than it was.
more than it was, but still, absolutely not.
You do see still a lot of it in. We always saw a lot of it in police and military type shows.
Yes, in those things, it's a big thing, which is
Rambo is a big one.
Rambo is absolutely. That's the whole
Not the sequel.
Rambo First Blood, we should say,
First Blood, yes.
which is the first one, which very good film for actually looking at trauma and stuff. The others are they have action.
They're a little different.
They're a bit different, but no, the first one absolutely deals with trauma and PTSD and stuff like that. Moon Knight, the Disney show, that kind of deals with trauma, but through a different lens. Because does he have multiple personality disorder, or so I don't quite remember what he is diagnosed with, but the main character in Moon Knight has multiple identities.
Is it dissociative identity?
It could be did, yeah. Which appears to go back to the fact that, again, spoilers for Moon Knight. When he was a child, events happened which wound up with him being abused by his mum. And he creates this alter to kind of have had this happy relationship with his mum, where everything was okay and good, and and everything was okay and fine, when in reality it wasn't. Which is again a kind of a very different angle on trauma and how the mind copes and stuff like that. And obviously it's a Marvel show, so it's also got superhero stuff and ancient Egyptian gods, and it's a lot of fun, but it does have some more of those more complicated moments. And I mean, to be fair, like if we're talking about trauma and mental illnesses and stuff, then like Wanda Maximoff and WandaVision and all of that stuff's definitely there. But again, all that stuff's when it's kind of superhero shows, you've often got it there. Heck, you've even got it there in Iron Man. After he falls back through the portal in New York in Iron Man 3, but that's all still largely you can attribute to being like veteran stuff, as superheroes go, I imagine. So, yeah, outside of that context, definitely, there's definitely lots of people who go through trauma, and again, pretty crazy that this is the kind of Steven Universe is a show that does really deal with that stuff. You just got to look ever so slightly beneath the surface, and then you can talk like for over an hour about a 10-minute long episode. And yeah, I'm just rambling now, so
that's okay. I think we've checked everything off.
I think we have. Yeah, we've gone through all the lists we've got. So yeah, next time, Greg, the babysitter, which is still quite a lot going on, but a bit less heavy than this one. So
yes, and after that is Gem Hunt. Who knows if we'll get there?
Who knows when or if we'll get there? But until then, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cabincast. For more episodes, go to www.cabincast.podbean.com or use the Podbean app. You can now also find us on iTunes and Pocket Casts under Cabincast and on YouTube. The uploads here are quite behind. Finally, you can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Cabincast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.